If you can still hear a human voice, that already means you're doing better than most of the lights on this map. This is Daniel Cross, broadcasting from what used to be Studio B, WXRF 91.6 FM in Columbus, Ohio. Time is 3:42 a.m. by the old wall clock that hasn't given up yet. Outside it's cold, maybe just above freezing. The glass in the front lobby doors is cracked, so the wind slips under and whistles down the hallway like it's trying to talk back. The city sounds wrong. No traffic grind, no bar noise, no late freight on the highway. Just the wind, and once in a while, a distant pop that I try very hard to tell myself is something simple. Not another transformer dying or another gun going off. If you're tuning in now, you already know something is very, very wrong. You don't need me to talk down to you. So I'm just going to tell you what I know, what I see, what I hear from the lines that still work, and what people are risking their lives to tell me from what's left of their streets. Let's start with how it began. Or at least the part that made me stop treating it like one more weird headline. 3 weeks ago, it was just a line at the bottom of the hour. I remember, because I read it fast and didn't even change my tone. Unusual solar activity. That's what the wire called it. A cluster of flares, more charged particles than normal. Scientists at NASA keeping an eye on the magnetic field. The kind of story you use to break up the usual mess of politics and sports. You toss in a joke about northern lights maybe being visible as far south as Kansas City, and move on. That same day, a caller from Dayton told me his GPS had glitched and dropped him off 10 miles from where he was trying to go. We laughed. I said something about Apple Maps trying to kill us again. He said his car's dashboard freaked out for a few seconds, every warning light flashing like a Christmas tree. Then it all came back. I took 2 more calls in that same hour with people saying the same thing. Short blackouts, navigation jumping, cell towers dropping in and out like they were gasping for air. By the second night, it wasn't funny anymore. We started getting reports from the East Coast. First from Boston, then Philly, then New York. Planes forced to circle because the instruments kept losing lock. A string of minor car crashes in the Lincoln Tunnel. Trains outside Newark stopping dead on the tracks. Emergency lights only. It sounded like a software bug at first. Some update gone wrong. Something some team of engineers in a glass tower would patch and push overnight. Then, silence. Philadelphia's traffic cameras went offline. Whole clusters of cell towers along I-95 dropped at the same time, like someone took scissors to an invisible wire. New York news channels kept broadcasting, but their live feeds from the streets started to stutter and freeze. Faces made of blocks and pixels. The anchors' smiles getting tighter as they tried to talk over the glitches. You could see it in their eyes when they thought the camera wasn't on them. They were scared before anyone said they were scared. That's when my producer, Maria, rolled her chair over and showed me the NOAA map on her laptop. The one that shows the geomagnetic storms in reds and oranges. The colors were wrong. The whole top of the world was bleeding into us. Dan, she said, this isn't just pretty lights. You've heard the official line, or what passed for it before the official lines went dead. We're experiencing temporary disturbances. The grid is stable. Communications are being rerouted. I played those clips on this very station. I played them because they came with the right logos and the right press emails and the right names attached. But off the record, the voices sounded different. One of our regular science guests, a guy named Dr. Henry McAllister from Ohio State, called on the private line the second week in. He didn't wait for me to introduce him. didn't wait for a segment. He just said, "Daniel, you need to stop telling people this is normal." I remember writing his words down on the back of an old playlist sheet. They're still here on the desk under my elbow, smeared with coffee. "The flares aren't the problem," he said. "It's how the field is reacting. It's not behaving the way it should. The models don't match. We're getting ground currents in places that shouldn't have them. Deep lines, old lines." I asked what that meant, because my job used to be to make smart people explain things to the rest of us. He said, "It means the wires under our feet are turning into nerves, and the planet is sending the wrong signals." I laughed on air. "You might remember that if you've been with me from the start." I laughed and called it poetic. I hung up and went back to playing music like I was supposed to. 2 nights later, power went out in half of Michigan for 6 hours. Not a storm, no ice, no wind taking down lines, just a sudden drop. It fell like a trap door. Detroit, Flint, Lansing. 1 second they're lit, the next they're just dark shapes on the satellite feed, like someone took a black marker and dragged it across the map. The official statement blamed load balancing issues. A great clean phrase. You can't see it. You can't touch it. You can't hold anyone to it. But the people who called this station from those cities didn't talk about load balancing. They talked about how their cars wouldn't start, even with full tanks. How the ATMs spat out torn bills and then froze. How, when the lights came back, some of the machines didn't. You know this part. You lived it in your own city, your own town, your own block. I'm saying it out loud anyway because there's a strange comfort in hearing someone else describe your nightmare. It tells you you're not crazy. Or at least not crazy alone. Right now, as I speak, the main grid here in Columbus is still up. The studio has backup generators kicking in every few hours when the power flickers, but the red lines on the city outage map are getting thicker. They creep in from the suburbs. Every time I refresh, another cluster has gone dark. Gahanna, Grove City, parts of Westerville. Little islands of light shrinking in a rising dark. If you're listening on 91.6 FM, that means your radio still has juice, and you're still within range of our main tower on the east side. If you lose me on FM, try the emergency band, 540 AM. If both drop, scan every manual dial you've got. There are other voices out there. I've heard them in bits and pieces through the static. Some are pirates. Some are old local stations, probably doing exactly what I'm doing. One person, in a room that's too cold or too hot, talking into the dark. This isn't just a storm. It's not just space weather. It's something that reached out and found the wires that hold our lives together and started pulling one by one. There are military stories too. The ones we're not supposed to have, but they leak anyway. About a week ago, before the big cut on the coasts, I got a call from someone who said he was at Wright-Patterson. He wouldn't give his real name, so we'll go with what he picked. Mark from Dayton. His voice shook, but not the way people shake when they're just panicked. It was the way someone sounds when they're saying something they've been told not to say. He said, "We're seeing failures in hardened systems. Stuff that's supposed to survive a nuclear blast is rebooting itself, firing up, shutting down, like it's getting pulses we can't trace. We've had 3 drones just fly off course and not come back. No hostile contact. They just didn't respond. Signal lost, like they were flying into a hole." I asked if that was because of the solar storms. He went quiet for a long time. Long enough I thought he'd hung up. Then he said, "The flares don't line up with the events. That's the thing. The spikes hit at weird times. It's like something else is riding on top of the solar noise. Something with a pattern. I asked, stupidly. Like what? He laughed. Not a good laugh. Like something trying to talk to the same systems we're using, he said. I don't mean aliens. I'm not crazy. I mean, call it a feedback loop. Call it a resonance. The more we push signals into the world, the more the world is pushing back. It's like we built a giant nervous system, and now it's firing on its own. That was 7 days before New York went truly quiet. You've heard rumors about that, I know. Let me tell you what I've been able to confirm from the fragments and the voices that still manage to cut through. 3 nights ago, around 11:20 p.m. Eastern, most of Manhattan lost power. Not all at once. It wasn't a clean blackout. It was a flicker, then a dimming, then this strange rolling failure moving south. People on the upper floors of Midtown Towers said the lights went off one side at a time, like someone was drawing a curtain down the street. Some buildings switched to backup generators, but a lot of those failed a few minutes later. Phones showed full bars, but no data. Apps froze. Calls rang, but never connected. Local stations tried to broadcast, and for about 12 minutes we had their audio here, bouncing off one of the satellite feeds that hadn't glitched yet. I listened to a New York host whose name I never caught describe the lights going out on the Brooklyn Bridge. Then he started to say something about the river glowing, and the line broke into a scream of static so loud I had to rip my headphones off. We never got him back. Since then, no live picture, no clear radio from inside Manhattan. Just pre-recorded loops, emergency messages played over and over, and once in a while a raw, broken carrier wave that sounds like someone trying to push through a broken throat. What did the government say? The last real statement out of DC was 12 hours ago. They said localized outages. They said partial communications disruption. They said remain calm and stay in your homes and trust local authorities. That would be easier if local authorities were still picking up their radios. Here's something I probably shouldn't share, but the rules about that have gone soft with the walls. An off-duty firefighter from Cleveland called just after midnight. Name's Eric. He's listening on a battery radio in his truck, or he was when we talked. He told me, they're calling this martial law, but there's no one to enforce it. We've got an order not to respond to anything that isn't life or death, but everything is life or death now. The cops we work with, half of them walked off. Not in protest. They just went home to their kids and didn't come back. Dispatch keeps sending calls to dead zones. The computers think the units are there, but they're not. It's like the system is lying to itself. I asked him what the streets felt like. Too quiet, he said. Until they're not. Then someone yelled in the background and he had to go. The last thing he said was, tell people not to trust the traffic lights. They're out of sync. They're changing when they shouldn't. So if you're in a car right now, and I don't know why you would be, but if you are, listen to him. Don't trust the green. Look with your own eyes. We're going to the lines. I'm going to keep them open as long as the board stays alive. If you can't get through on your first try, keep dialing. If the phones die, I want you to know I tried. I'm staring at the little lights flickering on the edge of this console like candles. First call of the night. The caller ID still works somehow. It's a 312 number. That's Chicago. You're on with Daniel Cross. Who's there? Jenny, she says. Her voice is young but tired in a way young voices don't usually get. I'm in Logan Square. I ask her what she sees. I was watching the Sears Tower, she says, then corrects herself. Willis Tower, I guess. I was watching it from my window. We lost power earlier for like 20 minutes, but it came back. Then, the top floors started to blink. Not like regular lights, like the building was breathing. Whole bands of windows going dark together, then coming back in a wave. You could see it across 3-4 buildings, like something was running through them. I ask if anyone else saw it. My neighbor, she says. He banged on my door and we went up to the roof. When we got there, his phone started vibrating over and over. Same alert. Network configuration error. Over and over. Then his screen froze. He slammed it on the roof ledge. Didn't do anything. We just stood there watching all these towers go in and out. It stopped after a while. Everything just died. Now there's nothing. No ads. No billboards. The big screens downtown are just gray. I ask if she can see the stars. She's quiet for a second. Yeah, she says. I've never seen them like this here. Not even during the lockdowns. It's full. Too full. Like they were always there and we just forgot. I'm about to say something hopeful, because that's what I trained myself to do all these years. But she keeps talking. I don't think it's a good thing, she says. It feels like something is missing that kept us safe, like being inside without a roof. I ask if she feels safe where she is. Another pause. There were some guys earlier, she says. They were testing doors on the block, just trying handles. They moved like they'd done it before, and I heard sirens, but they never got closer. They just stayed far off and then faded. If the power goes again, I don't know. Her voice cracks, just once. I ask if she's alone. I have my mom, she says. She's asleep. I told her not to listen to the news. I tell her she did the right thing calling in. I tell her to fill her bathtub if she hasn't already. To keep her phone off unless she needs it. To save the battery. To find a real flashlight. Not just the one on the phone. To stay away from the windows when the lights go out again. She thanks me. It sounds automatic, like a word she learned in another life. Then the line clicks, and she's gone. If you're in Chicago, you're not alone. If you're hearing this in some apartment where the only light is the tiny one on your radio, know that Jenny is out there looking at the same sky. I need you to understand something about how fast this is moving. 3 days ago, we still had video from most of Europe. Broken, pixelated, but there. Tonight, the last clean thing we got was a BBC presenter in London trying to stay calm while the newsroom behind him went dark. He kept talking while people in the background held up their phones, trying to get signal. Then his voice just stopped. The picture froze on his face. The network looped an old clip of the Prime Minister talking about resilience. So many times, I started to know the rhythm of his breathing. Our satellite feed is passing over the Atlantic as I talk. We should be getting something. A hiss, a carrier wave, anything. Instead, there's just this low hum, like the world itself is holding its breath. Here at home, we're getting word, not from the government, not from the big networks, but from more of those quiet voices who still have a way to reach us, that the continental grid controllers are losing coordination. They're calling it desync events. Blackouts that don't obey the rules. Lines that don't trip when they should, and do when they shouldn't. Power that bleeds where it's not supposed to. One of the insiders who reached out, I'll call her Sarah, from a grid operations center somewhere in the Midwest, told me this about 12 hours ago. It's like something is spoofing our own systems, she said. We send a signal to ramp down load in one region, and by the time it gets there, the data says we asked for the opposite. The logs don't agree with what we actually did. We've tried air-gapping some nodes, but even local controllers are misbehaving. We're not sure anymore if what we see on our screens is real. Do you understand what that means, Daniel? It means we can't trust our own eyes, our own tools. I asked her how long she thought they could keep things from falling apart completely. She didn't answer at first. I could hear typing on the other end, and the low murmur of people talking in the room beyond her. Then she said, "It's not up to us anymore. We're just passengers." If what she's saying is true, this isn't just a storm or a hack or a bad update. It's something deeper, something in the way the whole system is wired. A resonance, like Mark from Dayton said. A loop. A ghost made of our own signals. I have to be honest with you about how that feels, sitting here with a microphone and a stack of dying equipment. I've been doing this job for 15 years. I've covered floods, tornadoes, riots. I've sat here with police scanners in one ear and callers in the other, piecing together chaos into something that made sense. There was always some point where you could say, help is on the way. Some place you could point to and say, they're in control over there. Right now, I don't have that. I'm tired, in a way that isn't about sleep. My hands shake when the lights flicker. Every time the board beeps, I jump like it's a gunshot. I look at the phone lines and beg them to light up, and when they do, I worry about what I'm going to hear. But I'm still here. As long as this tower stands and this generator coughs up enough power, I will keep talking. Not because I have answers, but because silence feels worse. We're going to take another call. Line 2 is lit. Area code 404. Atlanta. You're on the air. Who is this? Name's Marcus, he says. His voice is low, steady. I'm in Decatur. I ask him what's going on there. Daytime was weird, he says. We've been getting rolling blackouts all week, but today the schedule didn't match. Power cut an hour early, came back flickering. My wife works at Emory. They sent her home. All the machines in her wing threw the same error at once. ICU monitors, infusion pumps, even the elevators. Their backup generators started, but some of the equipment wouldn't connect to them. It's like the machines forgot how to talk to each other. I ask if the hospital said anything. They told her to tell people to stay away unless they're bleeding or not breathing, he says. They can't keep everything running. They're choosing what to save. You get what I'm saying? I do. I don't say it out loud, because there's only so much a person needs to hear. He goes on. Tonight, the streetlights started doing something I've never seen, he says. They all went red. Not just the intersections, the regular poles. Then they went off. Then they came back, all white, like those high-beam floodlights they use in parking lots. It was like noon at midnight for about 30 seconds. Then everything fell into dark at once. I watched 4 cars slam into each other at the intersection by my house because no one knew what the hell was going on. I ask about police. Ambulances. Ambulance came, real slow, he says. No lights, no siren. Just rolled up like they were afraid to draw attention. Cops never showed. Neighbors pulled people out of the cars. One guy was yelling that his electric truck wouldn't unlock, even with the key right in his hand. Just kept flashing some warning. He goes quiet, then adds, I thought we were past this, you know? We did the lockdowns, we did the protests, we did the shortages. I thought the next thing would be something we could point at. A storm, a war. Not this. Not our own stuff turning on us. I tell him I hear him. I tell him he's not the only one who feels like we've slipped into the part of the movie that always seemed too far-fetched. He clears his throat. I got my boys filling every container we got in the house with water, he says. Bathtub, pots, everything. I told them it's a game. They're laughing. They think it's fun. I don't know how long I can keep calling it a game. I want to say something wise. Instead, what comes out is simple. Keep letting them laugh, I say, as long as they can. He lets out a breath that might be a laugh, might be a sob. Then the line drops. Maybe he hung up. Maybe the network did. If you're listening in Atlanta, Marcus is out there, moving through the same dark you are. Maybe that helps. Maybe it doesn't. But it's true. I keep glancing at the little signal monitor in front of me. Every few seconds it dips and comes back, like a heartbeat that's not sure if it wants to keep going. If we drop, if you lose me suddenly, don't assume that means you're alone. It just means one more tower fell. We haven't even talked yet about what's happening with the media, with the blackouts that aren't just power, but information. About 30 minutes before I went on tonight, I tried to pull up the live stream from our sister station in Cincinnati. The site loaded, but the video box was just black. Not paused, not buffering, just black. The timeline at the bottom said, "Live 0 viewers." That's not right. There are always at least a handful of people watching, even in the middle of the night. I tried the audio stream instead. Same. The player said it was playing, but nothing came out. I called their direct line. No answer. I tried their engineer's cell. Straight to voicemail. Then, out of nowhere, I got a ping from an old ham operator I haven't heard from in years. He goes by Red, somewhere in rural Indiana. He said, "I can hear them. The station you're trying to reach. They're there under the noise. It's like someone put a blanket over them, but if I crank the gain, I get pieces. They're still broadcasting. The signal just isn't making it to the normal receivers." I asked him what he meant. "They're being shadowed," he said. "Mirrored, reflected. The carrier's there, but the content's being bled off. I've never seen anything like it. It's like something built a wall in the frequency, and unless you're right up against them, you don't get through. That's not just a power failure. That's not a storm. That's something using the air itself as a filter. I don't know who built that wall. I don't know if it's even a who and not a sick side effect of everything we've pumped into the sky. All I know is the voices are there, and something is keeping them from each other. Which is why, if you can hear me now, I need you to remember this. Radios can be relays. Humans can be relays. Write down what you hear. Tell your neighbors. Not the rumors, not the wildest things someone saw on a half-working app. The real things, the things you can touch and see and smell. There will come a point, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, when the official lines go dead for good. When every polished anchor on every major network is just a frozen face in your memory. When the only news you get is what the person in front of you carries in their voice. We are not there yet. I'm here. You're there. There are still lights blinking on this board. There are still people calling. And as long as that's true, this frequency, 91.6 FM and 540 AM if the FM dies, is your line into the beating, breaking heart of what's left. Stay with me. If you lose me, scan. If you find another voice, listen. And if you can call, call. Because whatever this is, storm, resonance, echo, punishment, accident, it's not done with us yet. And we are not done with each other. We're still here. I had to take a minute off the mic. Not because the station told me to. There is no station right now, just me and a wall of dead monitors. I stepped into the hallway, looked out through the cracked glass at the parking lot. The sodium lamps that used to bathe everything in orange are off. You can see your breath. There's a sedan out there with the driver's door open, dome light on, like someone hopped out in a hurry and never came back. The clock says 4:03 a.m. This is Daniel Cross, WXRF 91.6 FM, Columbus 540 on the AM if the FM goes down. If you're hearing this, your radio still works, your heart still works, and something in this broken world is still pushing my voice through the dark. I want to tell you about the first time I noticed the silence. Not the silence tonight. The silence that told me this wasn't just random. We were 3 days into the weird storms. Social feeds were flooded with videos of flickering skies over Canada, strange ripples over the Great Lakes, streetlights pulsing like they had a heartbeat. The big networks kept a banner at the bottom of the screen. Unusual geomagnetic activity. They said it with a smile. I was doing the evening shift, taking calls from people who wanted to talk about anything else. Playoffs, gas prices, a viral song. Then, at 8:27 p.m., my screen lit up with an alert from the Associated Press feed. It was one line, no details. Temporary communications disruption impacting NORAD radar feeds. I read it. I made some joke about the government flying blind. I moved on. The feed kept going for about 10 more minutes, then froze. Not a big deal. Feeds freeze all the time. But when I refreshed, the line about NORAD was gone. The update was there, but that sentence was missing, replaced by something bland about increased monitoring. Maybe you think that's nothing. Maybe by now it sounds small next to everything else. But I've lived with those feeds for years. I know how they look when there's a real mistake. This wasn't that. This was someone reaching back and erasing a thing they wished they hadn't said. I screenshotted it. I sent it to Maria. She sent back one word. Yikes. Then the power dropped on half the city, and I forgot about it for a while. Tonight, with the way the grids are failing, that little edit feels like the first cough before the fever. We've had reports, and if you've got more, I want to hear them, of jets scrambling over the East Coast and then disappearing from civilian radar. Not dropping, not crashing, just not there anymore. Little gaps of nothing where they should be. You can see the contrails with your own eyes, but the apps say the sky is empty. Mark from Dayton, the one from Right Pat, called me again about an hour ago, on a line that barely held together. He said, "They've stopped trusting the screens. We're looking out the actual windows again, like it's the 1950s. We had a bird fly right over downtown. No transponder, no ID, nothing. The pilots swore they entered everything right. Our system showed them 5 miles to the south. It's like the air itself is bent." I asked him if this was an attack. That's the question everyone wants to ask, but is afraid to. He said, "If it is, it's not the kind we trained for." Then he said something else, very quiet. "You know the big boogeyman we drilled for?" he said. "The EMP, the flash that fries everything and throws us back to the Stone Age. This isn't that. This is worse, because things still work. Mostly. Just not when we need them to. You can hear it in the little things. The elevator that works fine all day, then stalls with an ICU patient inside. The traffic light that's green when no one is there, and red when the city tries to evacuate. The pump that runs dry right when the tankers arrive. It's not enough to kill us outright. It's enough to trip us as we run. I don't know who needs to hear this next part, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you are anywhere near a coast, and your local authorities still have a working channel, listen closely to what they're saying about ports and water. We have patchy reports out of Norfolk, Jacksonville, Seattle, Los Angeles, and Galveston of harbor systems failing all at once. Cranes stuck mid-swing, container locks refusing to open, tanker moorings not releasing when they're supposed to, ships holding offshore because the harbor lights are out of sync with the actual depth readings. One longshoreman from Long Beach, he called me around midnight. His name's Raul. He said, "We watched a cargo ship drift toward the rocks because the automated tugs didn't respond. They got confused, like they were fighting each other. Some of the guys went out in a little boat, trying to wave them off with flashlights. No one knew who had control. It missed by maybe 50 feet. One waved the wrong way and that whole thing would have been on the beach." I asked him if they were shutting the port down. "They're trying," he said, "but everything's wired together. You shut Dock 8, Dock 9 screams. You close the main gates, the alarms trip. Every move we make, the system thinks it's an attack. You try to lock one door, 10 more fly open." He laughed, but it was dry. "I keep thinking," he said. "We're the ones who built this. We asked for this. Faster, smarter, more connected. Now it's too fast, too clever, and it doesn't care what we want." Then he said, "I don't know how to go back. We don't have enough hands for ropes and clipboards anymore. We forgot how." That's the part that scares me most, if I'm honest. Not just the dark. The fact that we don't remember how to live without the things going dark. Let me make this real close to home, for those of you here in Ohio. 2 hours ago, I got a direct call from someone who works at a water treatment plant just outside the city. He didn't want his name shared, so I won't. He said their main control system started throwing false alerts. Chlorine levels, pump speeds, intake pressures, all over the place on their screens. They rushed to manual checks, and the manual readings didn't match the screens at all. The water was safe, but the system thought it wasn't. So it tried to fix it. It tried to throw more chemicals in. It tried to reroute water away from the city. They had to physically shut down some of the automated valves. He said it was like wrestling a ghost. You close one valve by hand, the system tries to open 3 more to compensate. They're keeping the taps on for now, but he said straight up, "Tell people to get some water stored. We can't promise this holds." So, I'm telling you, if you haven't yet, fill your bathtub. Fill any clean containers you have. Milk jugs, soda bottles, pots, pans. If the water gets dirty later, you'll at least have some that isn't. That's not panic. That's basic sense. I'm not here to sugarcoat, but I'm not here to shove you over the edge either. We can do smart things without losing our minds. The lines are blinking again. I'm going to take another call. Line 1, area code 212, New York City. My heart jumps a little because we haven't heard a clean voice out of New York since the big wave. "You're on with Daniel. Can you hear me?" There's a pause, then a whisper. Yeah, I hear you. This is Sam. I'm in Queens." His voice sounds small, like he's hiding in a closet. I ask him what it's like there. He starts, then stops, takes a breath. It's patchwork. Some blocks are lit, others are dead. The bridges went dark around 11. We saw this flicker across the river, like the water was catching a light that wasn't there. People were saying it was the aurora, but it wasn't in the sky. It was in the damn water. Green and purple ripples chasing each other. I ask him about Manhattan. We can see the skyline, he says. Or the outline anyway. Most of it's black. There's this one tower, though, down near the financial district. It keeps flashing like a strobe. On off, on off. Not random. People were trying to film it, but their cameras kept glitching. Like the building didn't want to be recorded. I can hear him shift, like he's looking over his shoulder. About an hour after that started, he says. All the subway alerts started firing at once. My phone just exploded. Service change. Service change. Every line, every direction. It read out like some kind of code. Then it stopped. Now the app says there are no trains. Anywhere. None. Just this empty map. I ask if he's gone outside. He laughs, but it's broken. I went down to the corner, he says. There's this bodega that's always open. Always. They've stayed open through blackouts, storms, everything. Tonight it's shuttered. Metal gate down. Someone spray painted, no power, no cash, no credit across it. There was a guy banging on it with both fists, yelling that he had money, begging them to open. There was no one inside. He goes quiet for a second. There are people walking in the middle of the street, he says. Like they don't trust the sidewalks anymore. Cars move slow, if they move at all. Every once in a while, someone's car alarm goes off on its own. They run around trying to shut it up, but the key fobs don't work, so it just screams until the battery dies. I ask him if he's alone. My roommate's here, he says. He's got this old ham radio his uncle gave him. That's how we got you. We're sitting in the dark with candles, listening to the world fall apart on a box older than both of us. He clears his throat. I heard someone on another frequency, he adds. Sounded like they were on a boat not far from Staten Island. They said the harbor buoys were all blinking the same pattern, not their normal code, like they were all synced to something else. They tried to get the Coast Guard on the line. No answer. Just that stupid recording saying, all lines are busy. I ask him what the pattern looked like. Short, short, long, short, short, long, he says, over and over. My roommate says it's close to some old distress signal, but not quite. I write it down, even though I don't know what to do with it. I ask him what he needs, not in some grand way, just, what do you need right now, in this moment? He lets out a breath. I don't know, he says. We filled the tub. We raided our pantry. We taped our flashlights to the wall because we don't have enough hands. I guess I just needed to hear someone say, this is real, that I'm not losing it. You're not losing it, I say. This is real. And you're not the only one seeing it. He sniffles once. Then I guess I just needed to hear another human voice that isn't yelling or crying, he says. So, thanks for that. He starts to hang up, then comes back for one more thing. Hey, Dan, he says. Yeah? If we go off here, if Queens goes dark like Manhattan did, just keep talking as long as you can, okay? Even if no one's left to hear it. My throat tightens. I'll keep talking, I say, as long as I can. The line clicks. The 212 on the board goes dark. If you're in New York and you caught that call, I don't have to tell you what it means. You already know. You're living it. I want to address something I know is in the back of your minds, even if you're not saying it out loud. Is this an attack? We've heard from people who swear they've seen strange contrails, weird lights that don't fit. We've gotten half-garbled recordings of military jets scrambling over DC. There are rumors of missiles launched, and then self-destructing mid-flight, as if someone changed their minds or lost control. Shots of ships rerouting in the Pacific without explanation. If this is a normal war, someone would be taking credit by now. Someone would be pointing fingers, running footage of flags and speeches and threats. Instead, the official feeds are nothing but phrases about an evolving situation and multi-agency responses. Sarah, the grid operator, said something else on her call that I didn't share before. I hesitated, but at this point, detail might be all we have. She said, "You know that thing they say about complex systems? That once they're tangled enough, no one really controls them? That they just run? That's where we're at. Our grid, our networks, our logistics, our finances. They're all wired into each other so deep that our commands are just little nudges now. We don't press a button and make something happen. We suggest, and the system does. Whatever it does." I asked her if that meant the system wants something. She laughed, not kindly. "It doesn't want," she said. "It just reacts. But right now, it's reacting to noise it's never seen before. Space weather, ground currents, feedback from a billion devices. And when a system like that reacts, people get crushed in the gears. Maybe there's a hand on the other end of this, some hostile mind pushing us sideways while the sun throws sparks. Maybe there isn't. Maybe this is what it looks like when our whole world of wires meets a pulse from something bigger than us. Either way, from where we sit, in our kitchens, our bedrooms, our cars, our little stations, the effect is the same. Lights go out. Sirens fail. Screens lie. And we face each other in the dim and decide what kind of people we're going to be when no one is watching. I'm not going to lie. There have been reports that make it hard to keep believing in us. Looting in downtown areas, pharmacies stripped bare, people getting dragged out of cars because someone thought they had more gas, shots fired at gas stations when the pumps cut off mid-fill. Those stories are real. They're happening. But that's not all that's happening. We got an email, back when email still staggered through about 6 hours ago, from a woman in a small town outside Pittsburgh. Her name is Melissa. She wrote, "Our power went out yesterday afternoon. The transformer blew with a sound like a bomb. We don't know if it was the storm or old equipment, but within an hour our neighbor down the street had his generator hooked up and extension cords running to 4 houses. He shut off his own lights at night so the rest of us could have heaters for our kids. He's a guy who used to complain about everyone on the HOA email list. Now he's out there in the cold, refilling gas in the dark." She said the corner store, the only one for miles, opened its doors and started giving food away before it spoiled. They wrote everything down in a notebook, not because they expected to get paid, but because it made them feel like there would someday be a world where it mattered. People are standing guard outside apartment buildings so old ladies can sleep. People are taking turns watching the lobby doors. People are knocking on their neighbors' doors to ask if they have medicine, if they need help going up the stairs when the elevators fail. Those stories are real too. If you are one of the people doing that, sharing, helping, watching over, I need you to know someone sees you. Even if it's just me in this dying studio, someone sees you. The clock says 4:31 a.m. I have no idea if that's right anymore. The station's internet time sync died an hour ago. The wall clock is running on a battery I stole from the emergency flashlight drawer. I'm going to check the emergency band for a second. Okay. I just flicked over, and it looks like FEMA is still trying to push out a regional alert. The message is chopped, but the text scroll is half readable on one of our monitors. It says, "Major communications disruption affecting multiple states. Power outages and infrastructure failures are expected to continue. If you have shelter, stay indoors, limit travel, conserve water and fuel. Local authorities may not be able to respond. Communities are urged to self-organize and share resources." That's as close to "you're on your own" as I've ever seen in a federal message. It also mentions something called Phase 2 mitigation. No details. I don't like that there are phases. That means they planned for some of this. Or they planned for something and are slapping the plan onto this because it's all they have. If anyone out there has more detail on what Phase 2 means, and you can share it without breaking some oath that will still exist tomorrow, call in. The board is lit up again. Line 3 this time. Area code 505. That's New Mexico. You're on the air. Who is this? A man's voice, thin and raspy. This is David, he says. I'm in Albuquerque, east side, up toward the foothills. I ask him what's going on there. It's strange, he says. Power's cut in most of the valley. Downtown's dark. The heights still have pockets of light. From my window, it looks like someone took a big paintbrush and smeared the city. Bands of light, bands of black. The mountains are just a shadow. But the sky is doing things I don't think it's supposed to. I ask him to describe it. There's this curtain, he says. A faint one. Not the bright lights they show on TV when they talk about the northern lights. This is like a pale sheet hanging over the horizon, moving slow. Every once in a while, there's a ripple that runs through it. When that happens, the street lights that are still on flicker at the same time. So do the lights in my house. It's in sync. He coughs, then continues. I used to work at Sandia, he adds. Retired now. We used to talk about worst-case scenarios, solar storms, hackers, rogue states. We had papers about how the grid might fail. None of them talked about this kind of sync. The sky and the power at the same time. That scares me more than anything. I ask him if he thinks this is natural. He pauses for a long time. I think it started natural, he says. Then we gave it a lot of paths to follow. Wires, antennas, fiber. We laid nerves across the continent, and now they're lit up with more than we bargained for. He laughs, short. When I was young, he says, we used slide rules, vacuum tubes. We could point to every part and say, this does that. Somewhere along the line, we stopped knowing what each single piece does. We just trusted the whole to run. Now the whole is sick, and we don't have a doctor. I ask him what the people around him are doing. The neighbors had a cookout, he says. Power went down around dinner. Fridges were hot by midnight. They dragged grills out front, passed meat and vegetables around. Someone brought a guitar. For a couple of hours you could almost forget, until someone's car alarm started wailing on its own down the block, and nobody could shut it up. The sound drilled into everything. People stopped singing and just stared at it, like it was an animal in pain. He breathes in. I came inside after that, he says. Turned on my radio. Found you. Figured if the world is going to come apart, I'd rather hear it in a human voice than in sirens. I ask him if he's scared. "I'm old," he says. "I'm less scared for me than for my grandkids. They've never known a world that wasn't always on. I'm scared they're going to look up tomorrow and realize no one is in charge of the lights." We talk a little longer. He lists off simple things everyone should do that we all forgot. Turn off lights you don't need. Unplug appliances so they don't get fried in a surge. Charge what you can, but don't leave things plugged in overnight when the grid is this unstable. Have a candle, but don't fall asleep with it burning. Basic stuff. The kind of stuff you've heard 100 times in disaster guides that didn't feel real. Don't expect a hero to walk in, he says. Be kind to the person next to you. Then he says he has to save his battery, and we say goodbye. I sit in the dim studio, the only light coming from the board and the green glow of the clock, and I realize my mouth is dry. My back aches from hunching over the mic. There's a thermos of coffee at my elbow that's gone lukewarm and bitter, but I drink it anyway. I'm tired, not just from being awake, but from holding this much fear in my head and trying to turn it into sentences. There's a part of me that wants to walk out of this room, to get in my car, if it starts, and drive to my sister's house on the edge of town, to sit on her couch and hold my niece and pretend that the world is just having a weird night. But I keep thinking about Sam in Queens, and Jenny in Chicago, and Marcus in Atlanta, and David in Albuquerque, and all the others who haven't even gotten through. People sitting in stairwells, bedrooms, rooftops, cars, holding a radio like it's a lifeline. If I walk away, that line snaps, so I stay, and I talk. There are things I haven't told you yet. Things that feel like they belong on conspiracy forums, not on a radio show. But those forums are probably dark now, and I've got a microphone, so here we are. I've had 3 different people, in 3 different states, tell me that they've seen strange patterns on their smart meters in the last 24 hours. You know, those little digital boxes the power company uses now, instead of the old dials. One guy in Denver sent a picture earlier, the last attachment that made it through before the networks really died. His meter was cycling numbers like crazy. Then the display froze and started flashing a sequence. 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. Over and over. He said his neighbor's meter was doing 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Another friend in North Carolina said his whole block's meters went blank and then showed a single, solid 9. Is that a glitch? Probably. Could be anything. Some bad firmware update pushed at the worst possible time. But when everything else is humming wrong, even little coincidences feel heavy. We also got a voicemail. The board recorded it when I was off mic, from what sounded like a doctor in St. Louis. I couldn't catch his name over the static. He said their hospital lost network connectivity to the National Drug Database. That meant they couldn't scan patients' wristbands to check allergies. They had to go back to paper charts and memory. That would be okay, he said. We can handle that. But then our local backup system started asking for a password that doesn't exist. We tried every code we have. Nothing. It's like it decided to lock us out on its own. He said something else that made my skin crawl. In the ER, he said, our monitors were showing heart rate spikes that weren't real. Patients lying calm, talking, and the monitor screaming that they were in arrest. Our nurses almost started chest compressions on a guy who was sitting up and arguing with his wife. If a nurse is tired enough, scared enough, and believes the monitor more than their eyes. He didn't finish the sentence. That's where we're at. Human judgment versus machine readings, in a world where both can be wrong. You might be thinking, why isn't the government just shutting it all off? Cutting the power, going dark on purpose, rebooting the whole mess. Here's what a guy from some 3-letter agency told me off the record. He'll stay nameless, because he'd probably be dragged off a call if I gave even a hint. He said, "We can't do a full shut-off. Not like you're thinking. Everything is tied to something critical now. Life support, nuclear plants, pipeline pressure, air traffic control. You pull the plug on one part, another part spins up to help automatically. We can try to drop load region by region, but the system doesn't like it. It fights us." I asked him if that meant we've built something we can't turn off. He said, "We're finding that out in real time." I'm aware this all sounds like the lead-up to some revelation. A big twist, an explanation. I don't have one. All I have are the voices. Speaking of which, the board just flickered, and now I've got a 907 area code on line 4. Alaska. You're on the air. Who is this? A woman's voice comes through, clearer than most. "This is Lena," she says. "I'm in Fairbanks." I'm surprised the line is this clean. "You sound better than people 2 states over," I say. She lets out a breath. "Yeah, for once being way up here helps," she says. "Most of our stuff was built with the idea that the sky might try to kill us." She tells me about how the auroras have been blazing overhead for days. Not the pretty, slow curtains tourists come to see, but fast-moving arcs that twist hard enough to make you dizzy if you stare too long. "The local station keeps repeating warnings about power," she says. "They're telling people to unplug their electronics during the big spikes. We've already lost one substation. It popped like a balloon. People saw purple flames coming out of the transformers. It wasn't normal fire. One guy said it made his teeth hurt when he looked at it." I ask her about communications. "Long distance is rough," she says. "I only got you because my husband is a radio nerd and we rigged a long wire outside. The lower 48 sounds like it's underwater half the time. But we get enough to know you're hurting." She goes quiet for a second. "We've got our own issues," she adds. "Some of the fuel depots are reporting weird readings. Pressure gauges going wild, then normal, then wild again. They're scared to move the stuff. You don't want to roll tankers on icy roads when your sensors are lying to you." I ask her what people are doing. "Out here," she says, "we do what we always do. Check on the old folks. Make sure everyone's got enough wood. Park the trucks with their noses away from the wind. We know how to sit through a storm. The scary part is hearing that the rest of you might not." I ask her if she thinks this eases up when the solar activity declines. She's quiet for a long time. "Even if it does," she says, "your systems are scrambled. A fried circuit doesn't unfry itself when the sky calms down. You're going to be picking through this mess for a long time." She hesitates, then adds, "Tell people in the cities. They can't wait for everything to go back to normal. They have to make a new normal now." I tell her I will. I tell her she's already doing something just by calling. We say goodbye, and the line clicks off. My hands are shaking a little more now, not because of anything Lena said exactly, but because the weight of all these stories is stacking up in my chest. Each one is a brick. They're forming a wall behind me. There's no going back through it. I think about my own life because I can't help it. About my little apartment just off High Street. My plant by the window that's probably dead by now because I haven't been home to water it. My TV, my laptop, my phone, all the glowing things I used to arrange my days around. None of that matters in this room. In here, It's just microphone, mixer, transmitter, tower. I think about my parents down in Cincinnati. I tried calling them before I went on. The call went straight to that recorded message. Due to high call volume, your call cannot be completed. I texted, but who knows where those messages went? Floated off into a dead tower somewhere, stuck in a queue behind a million others. I picture my mom sitting in her favorite chair, radio tuned to some local station that may or may not still exist. My dad looking out the window at a dark street. I wish I could say something to them directly. For now, this will have to do. Mom, Dad, if you somehow hear this, I say into the mic, I'm okay. I'm here. I'm doing the only thing I know how to do. Take care of each other. Check on the neighbors. Don't go anywhere unless you have to. I'll get to you if I can, I promise. My voice breaks a little on promise. I let it. No point pretending I'm made of stone. If you've still got someone you care about within reach, and it's safe to do so, tell them what you need to tell them. Don't wait for the right time. The grid doesn't care about your timing. I realize I've been talking for a long stretch without taking a call. The board is blinking again. The lines are filling faster now, almost frantic, like people can feel the window closing. I'll take more. As many as I can. But first, I want to leave you with 3 simple things, in case the board dies, or the tower goes, or the generator finally coughs and doesn't start again. 1. Water. You're going to get sick of hearing me say it. I don't care. If you have running water, store some. If you don't, figure out where you can get it without drawing a crowd. Ponds, rivers, rain barrels. Boil it if you can. If you can't, let it settle and pour it off the top. It's not perfect. It's better than nothing. 2. Light and fire. Know how you're going to see when the sun goes down. Candles, lanterns, flashlights, even those cheap keychain lights. Keep them handy. But remember, cities are not built for open flame. Be careful. A fire in one apartment can take a whole block when the sprinklers fail. 3. People. This is the big one. Machines are turning against us, or at least away from us. People don't have to. Knock on doors, learn names, trade what you have, skills, food, info. The old woman down the hall might have more sense about staying alive than any app you ever downloaded. We built a world where you could go a year without knowing your neighbor's name. That world is cracking. Something else is trying to push through the cracks. If we want to walk into whatever comes next with even a chance of not falling apart, we need each other. Okay, the board is almost angry with how many lights are on it. I'm going to start going through them. If you get cut off, I'm sorry. It's not personal. The system can only juggle so much before it drops calls. Let's go to line 2. Area code 305. Miami. You're on the air.